Not only did it lower my blood sugar, but it also lowers your sugar cravings if you have cinnamon instead of sugar. Whenever you're giving your body that taste of straight sugar, it makes you want more sugar.
You're listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. If you want to boost metabolism, lose weight, de-bloat, or simply looking for creative ways to spice up your meals with sweet and savory recipe ideas, you've tuned into the right episode. Today, I have Nagina Abdullah on the show today as she shares her personal story of how she lost 40 pounds by adding certain fat-blocking spices to help her diet and changed the way she tasted food. Our conversation today involves myth-busting topics like, do spices actually expire? And if they do, when should we throw them out? And what spices can help de-bloat? And there's a certain spice that actually has been shown to block fat absorption that you probably already have in your cupboard. Whether you're an expert chef or have no idea what to do in the kitchen, Nagina shares tips and recipes to help anyone get started to living a flavorful life all spiced up. If you care about the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, and the products you put on your body, then you should also care about the mattress you sleep on. We spend half of our life sleeping on a mattress, and if your mattress isn't non-toxic, then most likely it's full of polyurethane foam, flame retardants, and VOCs. Exposure to some VOCs can cause respiratory irritation, trigger asthma symptoms, and over the long term, increase the risk of cancer. Solvent-based glue often binds to the layers of a mattress, and it too releases VOCs. Most conventional mattresses often release fragrance used to camouflage odors created during production. And we all know fragrance can cause allergic reactions and sometimes even contain hormone-disrupting phthalates. Needless to say, switching to a non-toxic organic mattress with natural materials is something to take seriously. That's why I have been recommending Birch mattress to everyone. Birch sources only the finest quality materials like organic fair trade cotton, organic wool, and natural latex, which is not susceptible to molding. Every Birch mattress is constructed with non-toxic material so you can feel confident spending half of your life laying on their luxurious sleep oasis. I want all my listeners to enjoy a deep, restful night's sleep with a new mattress from Birch. Go to birchliving.com/digest for 20% off site-wide. That's birchliving.com/digest and get 20% off. birchliving.com/digest. If you get Botox or are thinking about it, please listen to this first. Botox literally is short for botulism toxin. So you are literally injecting a toxin into your face, which is one of the most vulnerable areas of our body and the place most people analyze first. Trust me, I get it. We all want to look younger or at least stop or slow down the aging process. That's why Botox is such a booming industry. But I have heard horror stories about injectables from people online, and that's why I always recommend alternatives such as Timeline's weightless, nourishing formula, specifically their eye cream. Their eye cream in particular is incredibly popular because our eyes start to age earlier than the rest of our face. So if you're looking to boost your skin's appearance without the needle, I recommend trying Timeline's eye cream formula. That quickly absorbs into the skin and immediately replenishes the fragile eye area with lasting hydration while strengthening the skin barrier. This cream is the most comprehensive, clinically proven eye cream on the market, addressing all signs of aging in the full eye area: hydration, fine lines and wrinkles, dark circles and puffiness. So if you want younger looking skin without the needle and injecting your face without all of those toxins, try Timeline skincare products. Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of their skincare products. Just go to timeline.com/digest. That's TIMELINE.com/digest. Well, thank you, Nagina, for coming on today. I'm so excited to talk all things spices, digestion, weight loss, metabolism.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here, Bethany. That sounds like we're going to have such a fun conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited. So even before we dive in, You know the drill. I like to start my podcast with some rapid fire yes or no questions, and you can only answer yes or no.
Okay.
You ready?
I am going to do my best.
Okay. First question, is gaining weight after 40 normal?
Yes.
Can you lose weight using only spices regardless of your diet?
No.
Can reducing stress alone make you lose weight even if you don't change your current diet?
Yes.
Is being overweight just chronic inflammation?
Partly yes.
Okay. All right. Last question here. Do calories really matter?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know there's a lot of nuances in those questions and answers here, but we can dive into that. But first of all, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell my listeners who you are, what you do, and then I'd love for you to share your personal story and how you got into this space.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm also excited to share a lot of the nuances, especially the calorie question. But I had to say yes, but there's a lot of nuances and it's not the only thing for sure.
Okay.
So I'm Nagina Abdullah. I am a weight loss coach for midlife women. So that's women over the age of 45 who have been struggling to lose weight and doing all the same things, but nothing is working. And I have a degree in molecular and cell biology from UC Berkeley. And I personally lost over 40 pounds when I was in my 30s after I'd struggled with sugar cravings and tried every single diet out there for my entire life. And I would always lose 10 pounds and then gain back 12 pounds. Like that was my cycle. I was never able to achieve the body and the health and the energy that I wanted to until I started adding foods, combining them, and then creating and boosting my metabolism. And then that's where I lost 40 pounds in 9 months. And now it's been over 14 years and I've kept it off. And I've now helped over 1,500 women do the same. And it's all natural and sustainable.
I love that. And so, can you even dive in a little bit more of your story? And did you just decide one day you're like, I'm just going to add a bunch of spices? Or how did you even what perked your interest?
Okay. Yes, absolutely. Well, I had been struggling with my weight. And so when I was in my 30s, I was working at a very demanding corporate job. I worked for a top 4 consulting firm in New York City. And I also got pregnant with my first child and then soon after my second child. And so with this very demanding schedule, as well as having 2 children, I was at my highest weight that I had been. And I felt really uncomfortable in my body. So I would be, in my family room, my kids would be crying. They would want to go outside and I wouldn't have any energy. I had no desire to take them anywhere because I was so tired. And another thing that would happen really commonly is that before I had kids, I wasn't at my dream weight, but I was at a better place than I was after that happened. And so I would get invited to go to places after I had kids, and I just would think about all the clothes that I couldn't wear and how I didn't feel like myself. And I would turn down so many events. And so as I was doing these things, not going outside, not doing activities that I loved, I looked forward and I thought, if I keep doing this for the rest of my life, it's just going to get harder. And I'm not going to live the life that I want to live. I'm going to be that woman on the sidelines, watching her children, not being able to participate in things. And I did not want that for myself. And so I decided I really needed to take action. But because I had been dieting for so many decades and it never worked to achieve sustainable weight loss and a healthy way of living, I knew I had to do something differently. And so that's where I started looking at the research from my degree in molecular and cell biology. And I started seeing that we didn't only have to restrict ourselves, we could also add foods. And then we could also add spices. And the thing is that I come from an Indian background. I grew up in a traditional Indian family, and we used spices with everything. So it was very easy for me to know how to add and combine spices. But I started realizing that if I used a little bit more than I was used to, and I started using a variety of different spices, it would increase my metabolism and it would also help my food that was healthy taste better. And that would help me make this whole entire journey more sustainable. And so I started adding some of the foods I learned about from my research, some of the spices I learned about and that I knew about as well. And that's where I started seeing changes happen right away within the first month of just adding spices and making a little bit of changes of what I was eating. I lost 10 pounds. And as I said, over the course of 9 months, I did lose 40 pounds. And to put that in perspective, I got 20 pounds lower than before I had children. And I was at the best weight that I had ever been. But the thing that is kind of more exciting is that now it's been 14 years and that weight has continued to stay off because I love what I'm eating. I love how it tastes. I never feel restricted or deprived. And I learned how to work with my changing metabolism as I was getting older. And that made it a lot easier to focus on fat burning instead of restriction all the time.
I love this. And I love that obviously you made a few dietary changes, but you didn't really change your diet that much. You just started adding spices, right?
Well, I did start adding other foods as well. So as spices were some of the things I used to flavor my foods, but I also really started finding that focusing on adding more protein changed everything for me. And the thing is, like, before I had learned about this method that I studied, I had been focusing on just taking foods out. So it was all about taking sugar out, taking carbs out, eating low carb or no carb. And I was always in those moments thinking about eating more of those foods I had to take out. So this method, I started learning to add foods. And by adding protein, that is the number one way that women are going to increase their metabolism, start losing fat, and also feel satiated because protein digests more slowly. And when you're eating protein, it helps balance your blood sugar. So if you're having carbs, if you're having sugar, if you're having it with protein, your blood sugar won't spike as much. And what happens when your blood sugar spikes is that insulin is released and that sugar is taken out of your blood and stored as fat. So if your blood sugar doesn't spike as easily and as high, then you don't store as much fat. And a secret to doing this is simply to add more protein to your diet. And so one of the ways that I started was adding more protein to my breakfast. And that's because it can be really easy to have a quick breakfast, have no breakfast, or really have a sugar or carb breakfast. And so it takes a little bit of thought to say, okay, what should I add to my breakfast? And I want to make sure I'm having breakfast. So I really started adding more protein to my breakfast. And then I started using some spices in combination with my coffee and my breakfast. And those two things, adding those spices and adding protein, that's where everything started to shift.
Okay, yes, protein is definitely having its moment, and I completely agree. And if you add more protein, you're automatically not going to eat as much of the other things just because you can only eat so much in one sitting. And so if you're eating a lot of protein, it kind of fills the plate with not much left to put on the plate. But I want to get into some recipes, of course, and how to incorporate some spices. But before we even do that, what would you say is the top spices to boost metabolism and burn fat? I think that's everyone's question.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. I love this first spice that I'm going to share. And this is a favorite of so many people's, including mine. And that's because it's a sweet spice. So instead of using sugar, if you use this spice, it will give you that satisfaction of sweetness without causing that spike in insulin and that fat storage that I was talking about. And that spice is cinnamon. And so cinnamon is something, it's so common. It's not exotic. It's not something that we have to go and drive for miles or have it shipped from a different country. We have cinnamon most likely in our kitchen cabinets. And so what cinnamon does, what its magic is that it helps to lower blood sugar. So it actually counteracts the effect of sugar, but yet it's sweet. And so you get that satisfaction of having that sweetness, but you don't get the spike in insulin, which is causing that fat storage to happen because your blood sugar's rising. And so a really easy, way to use cinnamon, and this is how I started when I started my 40-pound weight loss, is that I started sprinkling cinnamon into my coffee in the morning. And before I had done that, I was using like a French vanilla creamer. I was using Splenda because it was not sugar. It was an artificial sweetener, which I thought was better. But the thing is, it was keeping me addicted to the taste of sugar. And if you continue to be addicted to that taste of sugar, your body will keep wanting sugar in everything. And it's hard for you to enjoy, for example, the taste of just natural vegetables because your body's looking for that sugar taste. So the thing is, I loved my coffee in the morning and I savored it. It was my favorite part of my morning. And so I didn't want to drink it completely black. But what I did is I started lowering the amount of French vanilla creamer. I took out the Splenda and I started using cinnamon instead. And over time, I was able to drink it with only cinnamon. And this really jump-started my weight loss because not only did it lower my blood sugar, but it also lowers your sugar cravings if you have cinnamon instead of sugar or instead of artificial sweetener. Because whenever you're giving your body that taste of straight sugar, it makes you want more sugar. And so it's very easy to get off. It's easier to get off of sugar if you learn substitutes for sugar, but that still give you something that you feel like you enjoy, that your body may be craving. So that's the first one.
No, you hit the nail on the head because this is something that I always am telling people is even stevia. If you have stevia in something, it is sweet, but it's technically not sugar. So like you said, it's going to continue to make you crave something sweet and you're never going to get satisfied because first of all, sugar is addictive. And also, if you are eating more things with stevia because you're just craving more sweets, maybe you're not getting sugar from the stevia, but you're getting more calories with whatever the stevia is in. So you just keep eating whatever that is. And so I love the whole cinnamon hack. Now, I know there's certain types of cinnamon that are better than others. And I heard, is Ceylon cinnamon the best because it has less of the chemical that can damage the liver as opposed to the caseous cinnamon?
Yes. So there are the main two kinds of cinnamon, and the Ceylon cinnamon, which is spelled Ceylon. It's usually not the cinnamon that you're going to buy if it just says cinnamon. So you do have to, it is in our grocery stores. You can look for that Ceylon cinnamon. It is healthier for you. It doesn't create as much toxicity if you're having it at higher quantities. But if you're just having a pinch, so I want to dispel a myth here because there's a lot of, urgencies and caution around using Ceylon cinnamon only, and that's not necessarily the case. Ceylon cinnamon is healthier for you, but it's really only comes into play if you're using over 2 tablespoons a day. And that's when you should start to be concerned and make sure that you're having Ceylon cinnamon. But if you are having a sprinkle or a pinch of cinnamon a day, even a teaspoon or less, then if you just use the regular cinnamon, it can work for you. But if you really want the cleanest versions, no matter what, then absolutely Ceylon cinnamon is the kind that you can get.
Okay. And then how much were you putting in your coffee? Because I think we should give listeners a little bit more detail of how much cinnamon should we be having? Because if you eat too much, I know, and I've experienced it myself, where I think I accidentally poured too much cinnamon in something and I was like, whatever, I'll just, eat it. And I kind of got a little high from it.
Yeah.
And I know that has happened for other people too. So can we distinguish how much cinnamon we should be taking?
Yes, absolutely. You should really just put a pinch in your coffee. And what that means in terms of measurements is less than 1/8 of a teaspoon. Because once you put 1/8 of a teaspoon or more, once you reach more than that, then it can actually also taste a bit spicy. And so you're not really getting that taste that you were looking for. So really a pinch, a sprinkle, if you want to measure it, less than 1/8 a teaspoon, that's the maximum that you should go in one quantity. And that's going to give you those benefits of lowering your blood sugar, curbing your sugar cravings, and also tasting good at the same time.
Okay, great. So we talked about cinnamon. What other spices can help boost metabolism?
Yes. Okay. So the next spice that I want to share is a very neutral spice. So it's not spicy. And that's one myth I really want to bust right now, is that spices are spicy, because there's so many spices. In fact, most spices are not spicy. I just shared cinnamon, which is sweet. There's so many spices that are neutral. And then yes, there's a few that are spicy, but you really don't have to have those ones if you don't like spicy food. So the second spice I want want to share is turmeric. And turmeric is amazing because it's anti-inflammatory. It helps reduce pain in our joints. It also helps reduce puffiness in our face and inflammation that likely is showing up in your belly. And the thing about turmeric is that it's a golden yellow color. It can look intimidating, but it's such a soft flavor. In fact, you can barely even taste it. It's an earthy flavor, but it is, and it's very neutral. And a way that I recommend starting with turmeric actually goes hand in hand with a breakfast that I call Protein More. And as I was talking about, getting that breakfast, getting that protein in your breakfast is so important. And so I like to call it a Protein More breakfast. And so a way that you can get more protein into your breakfast is by adding 2 eggs, as well as a half a cup of egg whites. And I'll talk about why in a moment. First, I want to share how to add turmeric to this. So eggs are yellow anyway. And so when you put a sprinkle of turmeric, you could put a half a teaspoon or less. You don't have to go as little as an eighth of a teaspoon as for cinnamon. You can actually put a little bit more in there. You put a half of a teaspoon or less. And then you also want to make sure that you're combining turmeric with a sprinkle of black pepper. And that's because black pepper increases the absorption of turmeric by over 2,000%. And so when you use turmeric and black pepper in your eggs, it's so natural. You cannot taste the turmeric, or barely you'll be able to taste it. And so you'll be able to get that anti-inflammatory effect, that puffiness reduction, that inflammation reduction right away in the morning when you're having that meal. And one thing I want to add about the breakfast that I mentioned, if you're doing 2 eggs, a good target to have for protein is to have 30 grams of protein at every meal. And so to give some perspective, 2 eggs, which is a normal amount that many people have, is only 12 grams of protein. Each egg is only 6 grams. So if you have 12 grams of protein, what happens is that you will get hungrier more quickly, and your body will start craving a faster energy source, which is usually sugar or carbs. Not saying that carbs are bad, because they're absolutely not, but we definitely want to know that we're eating the right amount of carbs and eating the right kinds of carbs. And so if you proactively eat more protein in your breakfast by simply adding a half cup of egg whites, which is going to boost that up 10 more grams, or if you are able to do a full cup of egg whites, you're going to get to your 30 grams of protein in the morning. And it was really easy. All you did was add that liquid egg whites into your eggs. Or what you could do is have the 2 eggs with the turmeric and the black pepper, as well as some salt, because to make it taste good. And then you could have a Greek yogurt on the side, and that's going to also get you to 30 grams. And have some berries as well, which are low sugar fruit. And that is really what I call a Protein More fat burning breakfast, because you're having your protein, you're having your fiber from the berries, you're having your spices, and you're really activating your metabolism. So that's one of the ways to get that turmeric in, but also make sure you're getting your protein in.
I love those tips. And I think that even, adding the turmeric to your eggs is brilliant, because it's not like it's going to make it turn some weird color. And I honestly, if you even have kids, I don't even think they'll notice it if you just kind of sprinkle it in their eggs. Maybe they will with the taste, but definitely, again, good tip with the black pepper to activate the turmeric. In fact, it's funny you even bring up Greek yogurt. Last night, I was snacking on some Greek yogurt. This may sound weird. Maybe you've tried it, but I added some turmeric and black pepper to my Greek yogurt, and it was like a savory yogurt, and it was so good. I was like, how come I've not been doing this till now?
Wow, that's amazing. And I love that you said a savory Greek yogurt, because Greek yogurt, a sweet version, which is more typical, is berries and maybe cinnamon as well, to actually lower your blood sugar while you're eating that. But then you can have a savory version with turmeric, black pepper. That sounds amazing. And then you're getting those benefits of the turmeric.
Yeah, so I'm on board with you there. Now, I've heard, is this a myth or is this true, that turmeric blocks body fat absorption?
Yes,
Is that true?
absolutely. Yes, that is true. Turmeric blocks body fat absorption. There's so many studies. I have many scientific studies on my website that let link to and that show that these are correct. But yes, it actually stops. It actually decreases new fat cells from growing. It depends on the consistency of turmeric that you're having. But yes, it absolutely works in those ways, and that's part of the reason you're going to notice anti-inflammation. You're going to notice your body changing. It's just from these natural additions, but as long as you're eating the right food as well.
Right. I was just going to say, this is not a free pass to go to McDonald's and then just, eat some
No.
turmeric on the side.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And a lot of times we see turmeric at smoothie places where they're like have a turmeric shot, and it's a great idea. That's a great addition to have because you are getting that immediate anti-inflammation, and there's no calories. It's all natural, and that's what's so amazing. So yeah.
Okay. Now, here's a question too, because we all know the powdered turmeric. You probably have it in your pantry, and there's also the fresh turmeric root. Now, it's typically sold right next to the ginger root at the store. Sometimes they have it in a clamshell combined. Is it just as effective to get the dried powdered turmeric versus the fresh root?
Okay, great question. Oh my gosh, you know so much. Wow, that's some real deep knowledge of turmeric because most people don't realize that that's the actual source is something that looks very similar to ginger. And so now if you're using the powdered turmeric, it is effective. I mean, it's definitely effective. If you're using the actual source of it, of course, it's going to be stronger. The thing is, I also like to be, living in reality where many of us are busy. Many of us may not have the time or the desire to peel the turmeric, chop it, mince it, and process it in that way. And so if you do, then that's great, but if you're doing it like that, you're not going to be able to just sprinkle it into sprinkle it into certain things, like for example, Greek yogurt. You would actually want to, it's going to have a different flavor, a different taste, it's a different texture. It's not a powder. It's now like looking like something like ginger. So, I mean, that would be great. It's great, better for cooking. So if you're using turmeric in your cooking and turmeric is really great if you're making lentils, also great if you're making any kind of meat or like chicken or stew type of thing. It's really great to saute first if that's your choice. But using the powder is the way that I've always used it, even growing up when my mom has been cooking. It's just using the powdered form of turmeric.
Okay. Now you also bring up a good a good thought in my mind is that you said cooking with the spices. And so, for example, you already talked about activating the turmeric with pepper. And are there other spices that we should know about that need to be, quote, activated for them to, work better? Or do we need to heat up certain spices for them to, quote, pop the flavor or, anything like that? Or is turmeric the only one?
Well, no, there's other ones, especially more of like herbs, like for example, ginger. So ginger is an excellent, amazing spice that actually helps ease digestion, and that's a lot of the reasons. Many of us may have heard of something like, your grandma's ginger tea, for example, because ginger is really great to have after a meal because it really helps move food through. It feels amazing, and so ginger is something where, for example, if you're having it in a tea, you could just put it in the tea, but the water is hot, so it's going to be, you're going to get the benefits of it as it's heating up. Ginger is also something that you can use. And it's very important to use if you're cooking lentils. And so you want to actually saute the ginger first and then add the lentils on top. And the benefit and the magic of ginger with lentils is that it removes the gas. It really cuts the gas from lentils. So if you're making lentils or beans and and if you usually eat it and you feel like you're gassy with it, that can be alleviated. It doesn't have to be that you never have lentils or beans. Cook it with ginger, put the ginger in there, add the lentils, then add the water, the spices, boil it, simmer it. Or what you can do with ginger is, I mean, that's that. So that's actually, how you want to do that.
Reality is, modern life is full of hidden stressors. Poor nutrition can stress out and tax your body. Environmental toxins can also stress out the body. There's so much that can drain our energy and focus without us even realizing it. And by the time we do realize it, it's often harder to get back into balance. Armor Colostrum is nature's original performance upgrade, packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut health, strengthens immunity, and ignites metabolism at the cellular level. It's not just about feeling good, it's about sustaining the clarity, resilience, and longevity needed to make smarter decisions and stay ahead of the game. Armor has been a partner of mine for almost 3 years straight, and I've worked out a special offer for my audience. You can receive 15% off your first order. Just go to tryarmra.com/digest or enter digest to get 15% off your first order. That's tryarmra.com/digest. If you suffer from digestive issues, getting in enough protein can be hard because protein is difficult to digest. It may seem impossible to hit your daily protein goals, but not when you can sneak it in into a chocolate smoothie, soup, and even dips. Equip Foods offers a single ingredient, 100% grass-fed protein powder you can literally incorporate to any and everything. I love that Equip Foods sources from reputable USA farms and also does heavy metal testing so you can feel confident in what you're putting in your body. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, you really have no reason to not try both of Equip Unflavored Prime Beef Protein Powder and Collagen. Plus, you can save a whopping 20% with code DIGEST. Just go to equipfoods.com and use code DIGEST to receive 20% off your entire order. This only works on non-subscription orders, so be sure when you check out that it's defaulted to a non-subscription. I know you're gonna love it. Okay, so you're cooking the ginger in the pan first, then you're gonna add the lentils. Now, is this fresh ginger or powdered?
Okay, fresh ginger. Fresh ginger does make a difference. It's very different than powdered ginger, and it's going to give you much more of the digestive benefits than powdered ginger. So it's a different case than turmeric. Turmeric, you can use the powder. You're still going to get the anti-inflammatory benefits, but for ginger, if you use ginger, using the fresh ginger is the best scenario. But if you can't, if you're not able to cut it because you do have to peel it and mince it, you can use the ginger powder. It's not going to taste the same, but it is better than not using it at all. And so you could either saute the lentils, saute the ginger first, or you could also add the ginger after the water has boiled and add the ginger in there because it's still warm. It's still, so it's still going to be able to get the benefits out, just like if you added ginger into a tea, but you're not going to taste the flavor as much as if you actually saute it first. So,
okay, I love that tip though. If you guys get gassy from beans and lentils, that's a great tip. Now, I'm assuming you're going to taste the ginger in the lentils though, right? Because what if you don't like the taste of ginger?
Okay, yeah, definitely. Because the thing is, if you don't love it, it's really important not to add too much. Because if you add a little too much, it really has that flavor that is, even if you like ginger, like I like ginger, but I don't like tasting ginger, actually. It's like, it feels good when it's the right quantity. It just means you don't have to add that much. Usually the best kind of guidance that I like to give for recipes is add 1 inch of ginger for example, if you're making 4 servings of lentils. And so add 1 inch, chop it up, mince it up, or grate it so that, because if it's bigger, you're going to be more likely to taste it.
Okay. And then here's a tip too. Like you said, fresh ginger is best, but if you're like, man, I don't even have the time, get a bunch of ginger from the store, ginger root, then you can wash it and do all that stuff. You can blend it and then pour it in little ice cube trays and freeze it. And then if you wanted to cook with it or put it in hot water, you have the quote fresh ginger. It's just been frozen. And then it saves you so much time. You don't have to do it all the time every day.
Oh my gosh, that's so great. Yes. Oh my gosh, great tip. And yeah, and along those lines, a lot of times I just will have so much ginger cut up in advance. Like I'll just buy a whole kind of stalk of ginger, cut it up, and then just put it in either a Ziploc bag or a glass container, and then just put it into the freezer, and then just break off what I need for cooking.
Okay.
So yeah.
Freezer, you guys, I'm telling you, it's like nature's
Yes.
preservative. Now, we talked about digestion with ginger, and I know a lot of my listeners also struggle with constipation. So, what spices can help with constipation?
Okay, so for constipation, the thing is that, so what's happening with constipation is that your body may not be responding to fiber very, very easily. And that's definitely indicative of gut health, as you likely know if you're having constipation issues. So one of the things that you can do is that you can really there's a spice called coriander, and what coriander does is that it decreases water retention. So it also decreases bloating in our belly and also in our body. And it helps it helps it so that your body is not like food is not sticking in your body. That's part of the way that it helps reduce water retention. So adding and coriander is another neutral spice. It has a fresh, tangy flavor, and it's really great to add it onto really so many things. You can add it, you can just sprinkle it on your vegetables. You can add it into chicken along with cumin. Cumin is another great spice that could also help to not only has weight loss benefits, which I'll share, but can help to move things through your body. And the benefits of cumin are that it actually helps to reduce belly fat. And there's been so many studies that show that by adding a teaspoon a day for 3 months, then you can actually reduce belly fat. It acts on our bellies. So that's another spice that's neutral as well and goes very well with coriander. Cumin and coriander is a great mix.
So, how does that work with the cumin? Does it just shrink the fat cells in your stomach, or it blocks the absorption like turmeric, or how does that?
With cumin, cumin, the actual mechanism, that part I am not familiar with, but I know that the benefits, that the results of the studies have shown that it reduces belly fat.
Okay, I'm always like super nerdy, and I always like love to get into the science of things. It's funny that you bring up cumin though too for gas and bloating and digestion. So I've worked with a naturopath for gosh since I was like 15 years old. I'm 35 now, and he taught me something very early on, and because he's from Iran. And so he says it's very common in their culture. After you go to a restaurant, they will offer you a mix of cumin and fennel seeds, and they're whole seeds. And it's almost like a mint here in the US. And they're like, here you go. And they chew it just for gas and bloating and digestion. Is that like
Yes.
common?
Very common. If you go to any Indian restaurant on the way out, there will be a bowl that has fennel seeds in it. And sometimes it has this little pink and white candy looking ingredients in there because it makes it sweeter. And sometimes it'll just be alone. Of course, I prefer it when it's alone because the sugar pieces like work against the fennel, but it tastes nicer. So yes, you put a little handful in it. You put a little spoon in your hand and you just pop it in your mouth. And it is amazing for digestion. Yes. Fennel seeds are
Awesome.
great.
Okay. I want to talk about vanilla for a second. If you do you know anything about vanilla or any kind of the benefits?
That is not something I usually use except for a just to kind of replace the sweetness of sugar in some situations.
Because I know it can, if you get true vanilla, not, vanilla drops or anything like that, it can increase the sweetness of something. So you don't actually have to add sugar to something that you're baking because it brings out the natural sweetness in something. But I also have heard it can help reduce gut inflammation and even contains antibacterial properties. Again, not to be confused with vanilla flavor. Um, Now, are there any spices that require to be combined with a fat, for absorption? Because I know there's certain foods where you need fats or vitamins, you need fats. What about spices?
hmm Yes. So great question. So turmeric is one of the spices that should be combined with fat. And so we talked about the eggs. Eggs have healthy fats in them. And so that's another piece that helps that protein more breakfast is having healthy fats as part of your breakfast keeps you more satiated as well. And so the other thing is if you don't want to use turmeric with your eggs, or if you want to use it in other situations, there's a recipe that I have that's called a golden smoothie. And in this golden smoothie, you use almond milk or any kind of non-dairy milk. It doesn't have to only be almond, and it can also just be water. But if you want a creamy texture, it's something like almond milk, cashew milk, something that's non-dairy, to help continue that weight loss if you're somebody that is interested in reducing weight. And then also adding a half a teaspoon of turmeric, black pepper, sprinkle of black pepper, but then also a teaspoon of coconut oil. And that coconut oil provides the healthy fat that combines with turmeric so that you can absorb it even further, along with that black pepper addition. And that recipe that I just mentioned is a really easy recipe to have, like when you're having afternoon cravings. And if you have this, it has turmeric, it has the black pepper, it has a little bit of that healthy fat that keeps you satiated. You're getting that anti-inflammatory effect, but you're combining it in the right way. And so that's really, that's one of the main spices to make sure that you combine with fat. But overall, combining spices with different foods is very beneficial. I mean, you can combine them. The thing is, if you're having a meal, ideally you're having protein, you're having healthy carbs, which are things like lentils, like we've been talking about, beans, using that ginger to cut the gas, but also things like sweet potatoes, or what I call slimming grains, which are alternatives to rice. And that those are things like quinoa or millet. Or farro or buckwheat, because they don't raise your blood sugar as easily. So they're nice they give you that grain, but they're slimming. And if you use spices on any of these, a protein, your slimming grains or your healthy carbs, and then also your veggies, then you're going to make sure that it's absorbing in the right way, because you can use them on any of them. But I recommend really working on adding spices, especially to your vegetables. And that's because it is very challenging for many women to eat the amount of vegetables that our body actually needs. And it really starts changing after our early 40s, where our body starts absorbing less nutrients than it was absorbing previously. And if we don't eat more vegetables, we're not giving our gut the nutrients that it needs. That's a lot of them are coming from vegetables. So the thing is, we know that we're supposed to eat vegetables, but a lot of people just don't love the taste of vegetables. So when you add spices to your vegetables, it is so delicious that you actually feel like you're at a restaurant. Like, think about, like, I have this cauliflower that's cumin, coriander, and turmeric cauliflower, along with salt and pepper, and it's made in a little bit of olive oil for that fat absorption. And so you're having cumin cauliflower with turmeric. I mean, it's like you want to eat that. It's also softer. When you're eating vegetables and you cook vegetables and then you use spices while you're cooking it, that's going to be much smoother for your gut health and soothing your gut versus eating just a salad, for example. And so, so those are kind of, cumin, coriander, turmeric, cauliflower is really great. Also having like green beans, which have a lot of fiber in them that'll keep you full more often, using turmeric. Also another turmeric, you could use like a black pepper or peppercorns in that. And that tastes like, even just those two things along with salt is going to give you those anti-inflammatory benefits, but also make your green beans taste better so that you want to eat more of them and replenish your body and really, really improve your gut health. And this really starts making a difference, especially, like I said, for women in their early 40s. You're going to notice that you might start to feel stuck in your body, in your weight. And that's because it's not because you're not eating too little. It's actually because you're not eating enough of the nutrients that your body needs. And much of it is coming from vegetables, and you can flavor those vegetables with these spices to make it easier for you to add more, including cumin, coriander, salt, pepper, all the things that we've been talking about.
I love cauliflower too, by the way. That's probably one of my favorite vegetables. And anyone that has digestive issues, like I know a lot of my listeners do, always cooking your vegetables is key because especially leafy greens, I hardly eat leafy greens, but cooking them can really help with digestion and even blending them. So I think that's a great tip. And then I did ask at the beginning, is overweight just being inflamed? And so I want to elaborate on that.
Okay, absolutely. Okay, oh my gosh, thank you so much because I loved those questions. But they were so black and white. So there's like a lot of middle in them. So is overweight just being inflamed? Here's the thing. Okay, after, especially in midlife, so really after you're going to start. Many people start noticing this in their early 40s. Is that you start to see a lot of bloating that starts to happen, and many people think that it's fat. And so so the approach is to keep doing the same things that they think had worked before, which was really to restrict food and to eat less. And what happens is that causes the bloating to get worse. And that's because this fat gain or this thing that looks like you are gaining fat is simply bloating. And that's a result of inflammation. So some of the gain that's happening could be and likely is from fat because there's more fat storage that's happening as our hormones start declining in midlife. But a lot of things, a lot of bloating is happening and it's not fat. So you cannot address it in the same way. Now, I personally just went through this where after having lost 40 pounds in my 30s, when I've been going through perimenopause in my 40s, and I started experiencing incredible belly bloat, and I thought it was fat, and I didn't know what was happening since I'd been doing the same thing as I had been doing for years that had been working. So I started doing a lot of research again, and I found out that there's a lot of inflammation that happens when our hormones start declining because our hormones have been protecting us from what's called inflammatory cytokines, these molecules that are released. They don't have an effect on us when we have our full hormones. But once our hormones start going down, which is happening to every woman, could be earlier than your 40s, but usually in your early 40s, then those inflammatory cytokines are being released and creating inflammation, creating bloating. And so that's why a lot of women are thinking that they're gaining fat, but they're actually gaining a little bit of fat and inflammation. And you actually have to do work to release the inflammation, which are things like making sure you're eating enough vegetables. That is absolutely going to make such a difference, as well as eating healthy fats and oils like olive oil, coconut oil, and flaxseed oil, which are balancing out your omega-3s and your omega-6s and really reducing swelling that is being created. So that's why there's a myth that weight is fat, but it's a lot of it is also inflammation.
Interesting. And interesting you bring up flaxseed oil because I actually personally stay away from it for different reasons, and I would love your opinion because I know that flax is very high in estrogens. And so just similar to soy where it's very it's a higher, estrogen food. And so what is your take on that?
Okay, so flaxseed oil is actually a magic oil. It's amazing for reducing bloating and swelling, and the reason is because it is unusually high in omega-3s. And omega-3s are a very healthy fat that we need to reduce inflammation, that we need to keep our brain running really well. And most of the foods that are in a typical diet are very high in fats that are called omega-6s. And when you're high, so this omega-6s are in most, like many foods, especially processed foods, unless you're really working on getting healthy fats from foods like avocados, eggs, salmon, low fat beef. Those are places that there's going to be not as much omega-6s, but there's still omega-6s all around us. And when you get into an imbalance of more omega-6s than omega-3s, that's where a lot of inflammation is caused. And so flaxseed oil actually helps to balance that out because it's so high in those amazingly healthy omega-3s. And so really increasing your having like 2 teaspoons or 1 tablespoon of flaxseed oil a day can help reduce that swelling and that inflammation. And you're also replenishing your body with those omega-3s. And in terms of the estrogen pieces, it depends on the dosage. It's like it's a very low dosage, and that part is there's also a lot of studies that show that it's not impacting negative. It's not impacting you negatively. So I know that I've been having flaxseed and flaxseed oil. I just started adding flaxseed oil to reduce my bloating, and it was amazing. That along with olive oil had an incredible benefit to reducing bloating, but you have to do it in the right context. Like you have to also, and this comes back to the calorie question you asked me, calories are not the number one thing, but the foods that you're eating are the number one thing. The way that you're combining your foods are most important for digestion, for gut health, and for weight loss. But there is a point where if you're eating too many calories, you will stay stuck at your weight. And so if you're looking for fat loss, you really want to work on eating the right foods in the right combinations first. And you're going to see a lot of results of fat loss and bloating loss. But then if you want to keep going in your weight loss, understanding the portions and the calories, but in the form of macronutrients is the most effective thing to do. Like looking at how many fats are you eating, how much protein, how much carbs, and what kinds of carbs, but it all comes together in calories. So calories do matter, but they're like on the list of everything, they're like the 10th thing, but they will make a difference if you're eating too much.
Right. And I love that you bring that up too, because, 500 calories from a McDonald's meal versus 500 calories of a plate of salmon and vegetables and rice is completely different. Yes, they're the same calories, but you're obviously going to benefit from the salmon plate versus the McDonald's.
Exactly.
But,
exactly. Yes.
to my point too, yes, you can eat more calories, even if it's healthy food. You can eat, 5,000 calories of almonds or something. I don't know. I'm just making this up. And, you're probably not going to feel so good.
Exactly. Yes, yes. But the composition of the food is so important. Calories is not the only thing, but at the same time, if you're eating 3,500 calories of salmon, that's also not going to be beneficial, just like you were mentioning with almonds. So we want to keep it in a place where, but it becomes an afterthought when you start eating the right amount of protein and healthy fats, because you actually naturally feel full. So you don't even want any more. You're just satisfied. So it's literally like an afterthought if you're eating the right foods and the right combinations. And of course, using those spices makes you want to eat those foods more.
Right. Now, I have a question about heavy metals. Are there any spices that can help us detox from heavy metals?
Okay, so for the thing is, one thing that is important actually with spices is just making sure your spices are clean spices and don't actually have the heavy metals in them. And so just using, nice, better brands, making sure that it's not too old. A lot of spices, their shelf life is around 6 months. It could sometimes last longer than that. Throwing out your spices, replacing them as you need to. Sometimes you don't have to keep it just because it's full. That's really something that you want to want to make sure that you're doing.
Okay, that's a myth too that I want to kind of debunk. So you said throwing out your spices, don't keep them too long, because there's something going around on the internet saying that spices never expire, that you can keep them as long. There's one of the foods that never expire are spices. Is that wrong?
Yeah, that's not right. That's not right.
Okay, you guys,
yes.
Take note.
Yeah, you definitely want to replenish your spices, and also the flavor is going to go away. So you'll know that, but you can't, you want to use your spices, and it's okay if you don't use them, just throw them out. That's fine. Just replace them.
Okay. And yes, I would definitely recommend if you can try and get organic spices, because spices are concentrated. So you are getting concentrated things, and you don't want all of those toxins and heavy metals and glyphosate and all that stuff in a concentrated spice. So organic if you guys can, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So we were talking about salmon for a little bit, and I just have a question. A lot of people, what are some tips or spices that you love adding to salmon? Because I feel like a lot of people, when it comes to fish, they're just like, I'm just going to do lemon and it tastes great. But what are some other options we can do and experiment with?
Yes. Okay. So I love the thing about salmon is it has such a natural flavor to it. And it also, I really want to let people know it has healthy fats in it. Salmon is another high omega-3 food. And what that means is that you don't have to add a lot of olive oil or oil to your salmon because that's really going to increase your fat content. And fat is one of the most dense macronutrients in calories. And so if you eat, one of the biggest reasons, actually, the number two reason that I see women not being able to lose weight and being stuck is because by mistake, they're eating too much fat over the course of the day because they're working on being healthy by eating things like salmon and almonds and nuts. Or if you don't know how much you're eating, you're going to easily be eating triple as much as your body really needs to maintain a healthy weight. And so for salmon, it's an amazing food. In fact, I'm excited because I'm having it for lunch today, and I already set out my spices for it because I'm going to be baking it in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 minutes, which is such an easy way to cook it. I'm going to be putting veggies around it, like chopped frozen broccoli, and that's going to be all done. I'm going to add turmeric, black pepper, and salt onto my broccoli, and on my salmon, I'm going to be using a Himalayan sea salt, and I'm also going to be using a simple oregano and parsley. And I really love those spices on them because they oregano actually has a nicely strong flavor, but you can just have it on its own. So a lot of times I just have oregano, salt, and pepper on my salmon. But today I'm going to also add that parsley, and it's all dried just because it's easier. It's easier to, I didn't have to go and buy it and make sure I cook it right away. It's just dried parsley. If I had fresh parsley, that would be even better. But in reality, I just decided to do that today.
That sounds so good. I love one sheet meals.
Exactly. Sheet pan meals, one sheet meals are such a great shortcut. And what I do is I'm going to be preparing enough salmon, like a whole salmon fillet. It's going to last me for about 3 days. So now for the rest of the week, I'll be able to just pull that out from the fridge, warm it up with my side of the broccoli that I'm making. And then also I'll have a healthy carb, which would either be one of the slimming grains, or it might be, if you eat gluten, it could be Ezekiel bread also, which is another healthy carb. And that's really a great lunch to have. So using oregano, parsley, those are really good. You can also use other spices like smoked paprika is amazing. And paprika. So those are two spices that are not that spicy, but they have a little touch of that flavor in that direction. And the benefit of paprika, as well as other spicier spices, like for example, cayenne pepper or red chili, red chili flakes, is that it has this compound called capsaicin in it. And capsaicin helps increase your metabolism. And so if you sprinkle the smoked paprika, or if you want to go hotter than that with cayenne pepper, you can. And then you're going to get that increased metabolism as you're eating that salmon or as you're eating anything. And so smoked paprika is just like a smokier version of paprika, but it's really not too spicy. It's something that a lot of people can eat. And it's a great starter spice. If you don't like spicy, but maybe you want to eat spicier, we can actually train ourselves to eat spicier by just eating spicier. And so paprika is a great way to step into that. But smoked paprika, a lot of people love that too. So you could do like paprika, salt, pepper on your salmon. You could do smoked paprika, salt, pepper. And then you can also add that oregano on top of it if you want as well. And all of those work together extremely well.
I love spicy foods. And I think people get a little bit shocked because I can literally eat an entire bowl of salsa just with a spoon. I'm part Mexican, so I just grew up spicy. But I love the paprika thing. And I think a lot of people put it on their deviled eggs too, which is something I just grew up with. Now, what about dill on your salmon? I know that's like a different direction.
No, dill would be amazing. That's so great. I mean, fresh dill would be so incredible. And dill is another thing that you can actually put in your eggs also. It tastes really good in your eggs. Sometimes you'll see in certain brunch restaurants or breakfast restaurants, they'll have a really great breakfast that you'll see is eggs, dill, as well as asparagus on the side. And the thing about that is it's a low sugar, high protein breakfast. And so, it's really goes in line with eating well, taking care of yourself, and also keeping your sugar lower, which is going to make a big, big difference in really your weight management. But dill on salmon, dill is amazing. The thing is, I prefer fresh dill. So you just want to make sure that you buy it and you use it, within or usually like a week. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fresh is best, right?
Yeah. It tastes good. Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned to me offline that you have like a free gift or like some sort of like a cheat sheet or something like that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, thanks for bringing that up. I have a special cheat sheet, and it's called the Sweet Spice Cheat Sheet. And it includes the spice that is likely in your kitchen cabinet. Yes, we did talk about it today, but there's so much more information about it. And the sweet spice helps to lower blood sugar and also curb sugar cravings. And so the Sweet Spice Cheat Sheet includes 3 health benefits of using this spice. It also includes 5 ways to use it in your day, and most of them are no cook ways. And I also include an easy fat burning fire tea recipe that you can use at night. And it especially tastes good as a replacement for wine. If you feel like you're drinking wine at night and you want to replace that habit, it's amazing to make you feel soothed and relaxed. So absolutely, I have that Sweet Spice cheat sheet that you can grab.
Oh, Nagina, I love this, that you've been just such a light. Where can people find you online, on social, all that good stuff?
Yes, absolutely. Well, you can find me at my website, masalabody.com. And I also can be found on Instagram, the same handle, masalabody. And if you DM me the word sweet, when you find me on Masala Body, I will send you a bonus recipe book that has 3 smoothie recipes that include the sweet spice and will get your morning going. And so those are 2 of the best places that you can find me. Once you do grab that sweet spice cheat sheet, you'll see I'm going to be having a 5-day metabolism boost for midlife women, where I'm going to be sharing metabolism boosting breakfasts. I'm going to be talking about the fat burning food framework, and you'll be able to grab your spot there. And we can also include that link also here if you'd like to get your spot as well directly.
Oh, that is so sweet of you. No pun intended.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much for just your time today. And we're recording on a Friday, so I really hope you have a wonderful weekend. And I can't wait for this to come out so everyone can listen, because you need to know all the things. So if you're listening now, thank you for making it this far. Go check out all of these amazing spices and recipes and tips that Nagina has. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To check out more shows by my team, go to wellnessloud.com, and to email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.
Are you ready to rock middle age? I'm Dr. Tina Moore, Gen X truth teller and holistic physician. On the Dr. Tina Show, one of Apple Podcast's top alternative health shows, I share what actually works for metabolic health, hormones, and strength, backed by decades of clinical results, not trends. From loving the gym and hitting your protein goals to peptides and microdosing GLP-1s, it's all done the right way, not the hype way. Because menopause doesn't have to suck if you're fit. New episodes every Thursday, produced by Drake Peterson and Wellness Loud.